What's up, guys? YST's there. This is Deadwood Jedi, another Raid Shadow Legends video for you. Welcome to the channel. I just want to say thank you so much for you guys stopping by and subscribing, and I appreciate it so much. It does so much for the channel here, and I'm so excited we get to introduce a really special character to the channel today, Mr. YST himself. Thank you for coming on your own channel and doing this clan boss video with me. This is exciting.
Guys, first and foremost, you have to rate him out of 10. Like, how accurate was that? We need to know. Let us know. 1 to 10, guys. I'm looking to see at least a 9 because that was pretty on point. For God's sake, man.
You know what? I should have done it with the accent. That was my bad. That's my bad. Welcome, guys. This is YST here.
Oh, no,
for another Raid Shadow Legends video. No, that's not it. Okay.
Don't ruin it. God's sake. All right, so basically, guys, if anyone actually seen our episode yesterday from the free-to-play series, we actually did talking about our clan boss team and all of that good stuff. We was actually supposed to include a clan boss guide of 2023 and the ways to tackle that in this year, with Deadwood still laughing in the corner.
Yeah.
And,
So anyway, the problem is I talk too much. She talks too much. There we go. And so we started rambling a bit too much, so we didn't actually get to what we had meant to talk about. We just enjoyed each other's company way too much. So today we figured we'd go ahead and actually talk about what we're supposed to talk about, which is clan boss guides, little things you need to know to do better in 2023 with your clan boss teams. We did this a year ago, and so YC came up with the brilliant idea of doing it again. And basically we're going to talk about, gear sets to look for, buffs and debuffs to bring in, kind of roles that your champions are gonna fill. That type of thing.
yeah.
Should be pretty educational, informational, and helpful. And if it's anything like the beginning of this video, enjoyable as well.
Hopefully. Oh, God's sake. All right. So, do you want to start off here with a sacred shard? Just because we like you. We're gonna get sacred.
Okay, sure. Yeah, let's start that. Let's do that.
Okay. I was hoping you'll be a clan boss champion, but it didn't happen. So, okay.
Yeah, not so much.
Let's talk about team roles then, I guess, as a fundamental, or shall we speak about the clan boss in general and how it works? So, in terms of
team roles is a great way to go. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So the clan boss in general, right? We have the void affinity, we got the spirit affinities, we got the magic, and we also got the force, right? So with the void affinity, it actually hits 1 time, right? It's a very normal procedure that we see, and that is up until 50% of the clan boss's health. And then once it goes below 50%, Deadwood, would you enlighten us what happens?
Yeah, so when it goes below 50%, you get these multi-hit attacks from the clan boss, and you get specific debuffs depending on the affinity of the clan boss. So, when we talk about clan boss, right, when we, like YC mentioned the void, there's 3 skills that the clan boss does. I think this is kind of important to break it down this way. 2, you have the AoE skills. There's 2 AoE skills, right? And then there's 1 stun ability, right? So I always call it the stun. I know Hell Hades calls it the slam attack or whatever, but generally you break it up into those things. So you got 3 skills, 2 AoE 1, AoE 2, and then the stun, and all that together is kind of a clan boss cycle. So when we talk about things, it's usually dealing with the clan boss as a cycle. Those 3 skills kind of repeat themselves. When you're facing void, 1 hit for each one. When you face affinity, those AoE abilities become multi-hit abilities, and you get a certain debuff, right? Now, what is it? Magic affinity is like a decrease accuracy, and red affinity is decrease attack. Neither of those are going to affect your speed tune or your team too drastically, so we don't generally care about those. What really matters is spirit, because spirit will give you a decreased speed debuff, and that will completely throw off the way that your team performs in clan boss. And so that's kind of usually what we talk about. We usually talk about it in terms of void and spirit, without really worrying too much about the other affinities, although they do have an impact with things like stun targeting and other little issues in the game. But that generally is what we want to think about when we think about clan boss, in terms of spirit affinity to deal with the decreased speed, and then everything else basically.
Yeah, 100%. Also on top of that, guys, you see that the void affinity hits one singular time per hit, as you're seeing here against poor Ronda, just trying to solo the easy clan boss. But in Affinity, they actually hit
Rhonda.
multiple times, right? It goes up to a 4-time hitter. So champions such as Torogi the Frog, who is an epic that we'll speak about later, can actually have benefits with
Yes.
that and specific champions. So it's very important, should I say, to understand those roles and knowing that he's just not randomly hitting you more times because he doesn't like you. It's actually just the mechanics of what's coded in with these Affinity clan bosses.
That's a really good point. It has a big impact on various champions like Geomancer, Bulwark. There's lots of champions where it does have multiple impacts and implications, but yeah, so that is important to kind of factor in.
Yeah, 100%. So, all right. So that's basically the fundamentals of the clan boss and the kind of ways that it works. So in terms of debuffs and buffs, so let's start off with the debuffs. What is kind of like, you've come into the game, right? You're thinking, ooh, I'm starting to build up my clan boss squad. I'm starting to look for these styles of champions. What is the number one thing that you want in a champion in order to deal damage or stay alive long?
If you're well,
Uh,
two very different objectives there, I
yes.
would say. But I would say the number one most important debuff that you're going to want to bring in the clan boss, and as you get further along, it's going to be more and more important as the clan boss begins to hit harder and harder. But the number one is definitely decrease attack.
Mhm.
It's the one thing it basically halves the damage that comes in from the clan boss. It's a massive, massive debuff to bring in, and is essential for any long-term potential team. Now there are, there's obviously some teams that are like Unkillable where none of that's going to matter. Survivability is guaranteed. But for most traditional teams, especially early on in this game, you're going to need decreased attack. Tyrell is a perfect example, an amazing decreased attack champion. Having it on somebody's A1 skill is generally preferable, but you just basically want to make sure that you're going to keep that debuff up for the entirety of the fight. A lot of times when we wipe, because that debuff has fallen off.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing to actually pick up on is when you're looking for these styles of debuffs, especially with like a decreased attack, you're actually looking for it with your default skills. So that's going to be the A1 that doesn't go on cooldown. So we're not talking about active skills, we're talking about the default skills, because this is where your consistency is coming from. But don't get me wrong, guys, there is champions such as Stagnite. They are on 3-turn cooldowns. You can use like Master Hex and Masteries to kind of add to that, right? Those are very important as well. But I think, especially if you think about Affinity Clan Boss and somebody like a Tyrell being the negative affinity to like a Force, being able to have that extra chance just in case you get resisted on a default can actually help you survive in the more broader spectrum of things, right?
100%. And there's a few variations, few reasons why having it on your default skill is so important. There are masteries that can give you a 50% chance of counterattack. There is the counterattack buff itself.
Yep.
Either of those are going to give you more what do they call it? Like more bites at the apple,
Yep.
basically, more chances to land that debuff, but those both proc the default skill, that A1 ability. That's why having it on there is valuable. There are a lot more champions in this game than when we first started playing, and so there's a lot of champions that have decreased attack on a 3-turn cooldown, with with a 100% chance to land. Those are definitely champions worth using for clan boss. But with when you're bad affinity, this is the important part to remember. If you're ever weak affinity, then there's always going to be like a 35% chance, I think, or 30% chance to weak hit. And if you weak hit, those debuffs will not land. And so that's an important factor to consider, right? And so that's why we generally like to go with the A1 ability. Anything that gives you multiple bites at the apple, I'll say that again, multiple chances for it to land is going to be really valuable, because almost always with one of the affinities, it's going to be a chance where it's just not going to land for you, and that can be really, really, really problematic. So
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why we go with that route.
Oh, 100%. Like, I remember when I first started coming into this game, I was like, why is my dude not placing decreased attack? Why am I dying so early? And 9 times out of 10, it is coming down to not landing those debuffs, right? And having the wrong affinities, and you're like, oh, damn, we're getting smacked here. Next one that I wanted to lead into, I guess, will be a poison champions. A prime example will be the starter champion in KO. And you probably see, if you go into a clan for the first ever time, you might have seen this with the free-to-play series as well, that traditionally, your start of your clan buzz journey, all the way up into Ultra Nightmare, by the way, Poison stands as one of the best debuffs to bring into the clan boss period for damage, right? So, do you want to just speak to us a little bit about how impactful the Poison debuffs are for players?
Oh yeah, it's probably the number one way to get damage
Yeah.
in the clan boss. We talk about clan boss, especially early on, right? You can't build crit rate on your champions. You can't build crit damage on your champions. It's very hard to do both of those things on your champions. You just don't have the gear for it. And not only do you not have the gear for it, but you don't have the gear to do that and try and survive at the same time. So, since most of your damage is not coming from raw damage, a lot of it's going to be coming from poisons, from passive damage. Poisons, HP burn generally be the two ways that happens. And so, being able to stack as many poisons as you can on the clan boss is absolutely massive. So, there's a lot of real good potential in that. Obviously, we don't ever have a full debuff bar of just
Yes.
poisons. It's not, that's never something that we actually do.
Yeah.
But it shows you the potential of that, right? Like that by using poisons, it can be an excellent, excellent, excellent source of damage for you. You can then all you have to worry about is the accuracy to land them. You don't have to worry about surviving. You don't have to worry about crit rate, and you can do a really good performance at that level. So that's definitely something
Oh no,
as we're working on
100%.
our free to plays. I'm thinking about constantly of like maybe I should just have frozen banshee kill and venom age and not worry about anything else, and we'll just do all poison. There's some
Yeah.
options there, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I would say that also don't just only max up poison champions though. It's very important because definitely stay tuned, guys. We're gonna break down all of the other roles that you are looking for. As Deadwood actually spoke about just there, very important. You can only have 10 debuff slots on the clan boss at any given time. So overstacking with poison is definitely something you don't want to happen. Vast majority of the time, you want to bring in these other
Yeah.
debuffs we're gonna mention and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that really kind of leads us into some of the other debuffs you want to bring because poisons is not the only way you're going to get damage. It's definitely one of the biggest ways, but the main way actually for early on, one of the most, what do you say, sustainable ways to do that is through your masteries with War Master and Giant Slayer. And I know we're probably going to be talking about that later,
Yeah.
but those two masteries do a lot of damage for you, but they're heavily influenced by two other debuffs that you're going to want to try to bring in decrease defense and weaken. Yeah, you can see the mastery right there, Giant Slayer or War Master, I guess I should say, on Lydia. It does basically a percentage damage to the clan boss. So every time it procs, you're getting like 60,000, 50,000, 70, 80,000 damage. And that all depends. You notice I named a lot of different numbers in there. It really depends on not only the difficulty of the clan boss you're hitting, but also if you have decreased defense up, if you have weaken up, because it is affected by those. So
Yeah.
those two debuffs can almost double the damage that you're getting from those two masteries, and that can be massive for you. It can really make a huge difference in the damage that you're doing overall. And those are masteries that every single one of your five clan boss champions can have, and you can get multiple procs that can be really, really effective for you. It's one of the reasons why fast teams that go at like a 2-1 ratio, take 2 turns for every one the clan boss get, can very easily do 2 key damage on Ultra Nightmare because you're getting so many, attacks, and those procs are happening over and over and over again. They don't even have to be heavy damage dealing champions, and you can still get really, really good results out of it.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. So okay, so talking about drop defense and weaken, what kind of things are you looking for? Of course, there is different styles, like we mentioned with the Tyrell, with somebody like a Anax is a prime example, being a default skill of the drop defense, right? Where is
Sure.
he? So we got a drop defense on the default skill, but then we can have it on a cooldown, which I think that these two debuffs in particular are ones that we don't mind having on cooldowns, right? Of course, it is ideal to have it on a default, but having it on a rotation and all of that stuff is definitely what most of us do out here anyway, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, the truth of the matter is that we want to have these debuffs up as consistently as
Yeah,
possible. Jeff, definitely having them on the default skill, the A1 ability generally will make it more consistent than on another skill, but it's not going to be crucial, either way. There's some things that you just can't avoid.
yeah,
It's hard to have a perfect team. So you're generally going to be missing something somewhere with some bit of it. But the idea is to try and keep these things up as much as we can, as consistently as possible. And so decreased defense, definitely one of those ones that you want up. You're going to do a lot more damage with that. But if you don't have it up consistently, you can survive without it as long as you're getting your damage from some other sources like poisons, like HP burn, or you maybe have multiple champions that can bring those debuffs. I think there's plenty of good champions, like you mentioned Stagnite earlier.
hmm,
Someone like Dux is a really good option, especially early on. When we don't have ideal clan boss champions, making sure that we have clan boss champions that can bring stuff that we need. They don't have to be ideal. They just have to bring what we need to the table. And so getting one of these champions to bring that decreased defense or even that decreased attack on a cooldown skill is okay. And we then need to do is time our skills a little bit to make sure it's
yeah.
happening when we want them to happen.
Yeah, and one important thing that you actually mentioned to me quite a lot when we're collabing and stuff is actually the value of the weaken debuff is actually better than the drop defense in the lower thresholds of the clan boss, right? So like under the nightmare, we kind of got like a much better value from the weaken, but don't get me wrong, both of them are still very impactful. Bringing them in is definitely going to help. But if you don't have the luxury of
Yeah.
having those drop defense champions in the early game, don't feel bad about just bringing the weaken because it actually has a lot more value than you may think because of the defense of the clan boss at those lowest stages there. Then once you get to around nightmare, I believe it starts to become around even, and then straight after that,
Yeah.
you're looking at about a better value from the drop defense because of the stats of the clan boss, right?
Exactly, exactly. I mean, the clan boss defense is, it's just not that high really overall
Mhm.
compared to everything else that it brings. So decreased defense is going to have more value later on, but a champion like Aethel, right, who is one of our starter champions, brings a lot of potential for your team. A champion like Bulwark too, because they bring that weaken. And in the early stages of clan boss, yes, the defense of the clan boss is so low that you get a lot less benefit out of a decreased defense debuff than you will with a weakened debuff that just straight up improves the damage that you're dealing. So
Yeah,
there is a little bit of a balance there. I think that's important just to note,
yeah,
right? Because often we're presented with choices of what do I bring in, and what do I leave out, and understanding how they impact your team is going to be important, overall.
yeah,
I know my clan boss team right now, my free to play, I have decreased defense. I don't have weaken, and I'm not hitting a level where decreased defense is actually better, but I know where I want to get to. And for where I want to get to, I know decreased defense is going to be the more important debuff. And so I'm staying focused on that. But if that's not the case, if I'm like, okay, I'm just struggling right here, right now, bringing in a weakened debuff can really hopefully take me up to that next level as opposed to decreased defense. So, yeah.
yeah. No, it's often that's the reason why. Well, it's just personal preference. I actually always like to go for Aethel as my starter champion when I have the choice.
Mhm.
Because she does bring in that weaken and she does give me that instant value. Of course, Kale, amazing option, the most popular one. But I feel like
Yeah.
it's a lot more common to get a poison champion. A prime example would be like an outlaw monk, right? From the Sacred Order. He's an uncommon champion. You can get him from the marketplace or summoning mystery shards, book him for free. And I feel like just this alone is enough for me in the early game until I get a better poisoner. So Aethel is kind of always my go-to. But leading straight into that, I was just on a champion called Bulwark. I know that you're very familiar with this dude. Um, he
One of my
actually
favorites. Yeah.
he actually places a HP burn that has a lot of value, but the one kind of misconception I see from early game players is they think that you can stack them like a poison, where that's actually not the case. Yeah, no, but it doesn't say anywhere that you can't, right? In the actual game itself, you kind of have to look to these
Sure.
external sources. So it's important to know that you can only place one HP burn and you can only place it from one given champion at any time. So if you actually, just to say you've got a Geomancer, right? A prime example. So Geomancer actually reflects with his passive with this Quicksand Grasp, and he deals a bunch of damage. You'll see him, guys, if you're early game. Once you come a bit more into this game, you understand the mechanics. One of the best
Eyes
champions in
broken.
the game. Yeah. So, but actually, if someone like a Bulwark is in your same team, this could be detrimental, right? Because let's just say now you put your Geomancer on, he's on a one-turn cooldown, and then your Bulwark comes through now and overrides that with an extra one. You're actually not getting those reflections anymore because it's now Bulwark's burn. So I think it's very important to know that there is champions like Geomancer in the game, and you don't want to have that clash of burns in one team, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is only one,
Mhm.
Another, I think actually there's a pretty big misconception about the effectiveness of HP burn on clan boss.
Mhm.
It is effective, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But if a poison does 50,000 damage on Ultra Nightmare and HP burn does 75,000, it's more,
Yeah.
but it's not so much more where it becomes an essential debuff to bring in.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important to recognize. Like, you don't need it for a champion like Geomancer. Amazing,
Yeah.
but in general, it's not like that's got to be your go-to debuff to make sure that you bring in on your clan boss team. Just generally, the composition of the team itself is going to be more impactful than just that one debuff itself.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess the next one will be, I know you're a big fan of Deacon Armstrong. We've all kind of got him on the free-to-play series, right? But on his
Yeah.
A1, he brings something that's very crucial for players. Do you want to break down what the Leech can do and kind of remove a certain gear set from the game that we like to see all the time?
Yeah. Oh man, like healing is such an important thing in this game, right? You don't think about it, but the clan boss, you can't kill it, right? First
Yeah.
off, you can't kill it. It lives eternally. But the thing is that Your team doesn't. So you need to be able to heal up as you go along. And for a long time, using lifesteal gear was the way to do that, where you heal based off the damage you deal. Well, Leech is a debuff that basically mimics that. It's not quite as effective. I think it gives you 18% of the damage you do back as
Yeah,
healing,
80% of
but
the
it's
damage inflicted. Yeah.
plenty effective for what we need. And it does work with the War Master and Giant Slayer procs from the Masteries. So even a champion that isn't built to deal damage will heal up a lot with a Leech debuff out there. And that can really do wonders for your team in the early going, because if you think about it, in the very early parts of this game, you kind of limited in what gear you have. You can't really like go, oh, I'm gonna put this set on so and so. It's like, I'm only getting what I can pull. And so not having to worry about what you're pulling and still being able to heal up can be a massive, massive boon for your squad and allow you to get better stats on your champions, do more damage. It overall is can be really, really monumental. That's why a champion like Deacon Armstrong is huge early on. And we do have a fair amount of Leech champions, and I think if you have the opportunity to bring them in, it can be a really big benefit for your team that you don't have to worry about gearing them up in certain sets, or at least not having to put them in lifesteal. You can put them in better, more impactful sets for the where you're at in the game. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
it's
100%.
huge.
Yeah, that's kind of the boat that we was in, right? Back in the day, there wasn't a lot of Elite champions, from what I remember anyway. And we was always in the
Yeah,
Dragon, wasting thousands of energy, trying to get lifesteal on all of our champions, trying to get the right pieces. And bringing in this one debuff literally can help you scale your heals in a very similar manner. So if you can bring the Leech in, just like Deadwood said, definitely try and implement that into your teams. But you want to look for some utility, guys. Like all of these debuffs we mentioned, if they're bringing those alongside Leech, it's a no-brainer to bring it in. But Deacon Armstrong, a prime example of one of those champions, right?
yeah, 100%. I love Deacon.
Yeah. So
Really
okay.
good.
So the next ones that we're actually going to lead into, guys, in the second segment is just going to be buffs for clan boss. I'm just going to quickly list them off and then we'll deep dive what they are. So counterattack, increased speed or turn meter increasing, ally protection, and unkillable. It's kind of the 5 that I felt are most important in the vast majority of player base. So shall we start off here with counterattack, because it's quite not lots of champions can do this.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's 3 champions in the game that bring this for the team. And they're 3 of the best champions for Clan Boss. You got Skull Crusher, you got Martyr, you got Valkyrie.
Yeah.
Like that's it, right? Those are the ones, and Skull Crusher's fantastic at it. Basically, every time your champion gets hit with that, when they have that buff up, they get a chance to counterattack with their default skill. We talked a bit about the default skill with decreased attack and how powerful that is. It really pairs nicely when you have counterattack on your team. And I mean, basically, it's not going to quite double your damage. When you counterattack, you do 75% of the damage you would normally do.
Mm.
But basically, it's going to double your damage. It's really, really effective. If you have Leech out there, you'll heal off that damage, right? If you have debuffs that you can place off the A1, you'll place those debuffs like decreased attack, poisons, decreased defense. There's a lot of ways it can be really, really impactful for your squad. And it's absolutely a. If you're running a traditional team, you bring it in. If you have the option, you bring it in. It's not even a question.
Yeah, 100%. And there's actually an amazing website out there, guys. Some guy called Deadwood Jedi, I think. Forgot what his name was. Do you know that guy? He made like a clan
I've heard of him
boss thing, yeah.
I've heard of him, but all I've heard are bad things. So,
Oh.
I mean,
But what does his website
look,
do?
he has the website's pretty solid, right?
Mm.
Deadwoodjedi.com.
Yeah.
And that's a place where like a bunch of speed tunes that have already been created are
Mm.
housed. And, there's kind of like a reference list you can search through and filter based off the type of team you want to do. There's a calculator. So if you want to like speed tune your own team and make it work perfectly, you could do that there as well. So like there's some cool stuff on that side, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy himself is
Do you know what? There's actually a problem with my YouTube channel, and basically some guy keeps hacking it, right? And what he keeps doing is he keeps putting deadwoodjedi.com in the pinned comment below. So if you guys do want to actually check that out, he keeps putting it there. I couldn't hold that for too much longer, guys. Deadwood Jedi has
what
an
a
amazing
jerk
site.
that guy is. I'll be sending you your check in the mail.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely buy myself a McDonald's burger with that. No, guys, in all seriousness, deadwoodjedi.com is probably the best website. Well, it is the best website for clan boss speed tuning in this game. And the man, the myth, the hatch, the legend, the laughing man in the corner, always has amazing speed tunes on there, and most of them are done for you. So if you struggle with like understanding speed tunes, or if you're just getting new to the game and trying to understand it, definitely go over there. He's made it so simple for the average player. So just thought I'd plug that in mid video.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Today's video is sponsored by deadwoodjedi.com.
I'm gonna use that from now on. I'm just gonna throw it into our videos.
I like it.
All right. So next one, we're just gonna briefly talk about increased defense champions. Increased defense is very vital in sustaining in the clan boss. Got a good example off the top of your head there? Maybe.
Yeah, sure. There's lots of great champions that can do that. Grizzled Jarl is a great
Mhm.
example in the dwarf faction. Brings increased defense, brings a lot of other things too to the table. But anytime you can get that buff and have it on a 3-turn cooldown, it's great. Usually is a 2-turn duration. Another awesome champion, actually, we're gonna bring somebody up. Hatatsu, one of
Mm,
my favorite for clan boss. I think criminally underrated.
yeah.
I think he's in the Shadowkin faction, but yeah, another really good option. But increased defense is super massive for you because defense obviously will mitigate the damage that you take. Where normally you take, let's say, 100 points of damage, with like 3,000 defense, you'll take like 30 points of damage. With like 4,200 defense, I think you'll take 20 points of damage. And with about 4,800 defense, you take, I think it is 15 points of damage. So one of the things that increased defense does is gives you 60% bump on your defense. So if you have 3,000 defense and you're only taking 30 points of that 100 points of damage, well, with the increased defense buff, your defense instead of being 3,000 is now acting like it's 4,800. So you're only taking about 15 points. So it basically halves the damage that you take. The really, really impactful buff to have on your team. And for myself, I always try to have it up for the full fight if I can.
Mhm.
Even if you can't, you're going to see a big difference when you do and when you don't, right? So it's definitely a valuable buff to bring in, and you're gonna want to try and keep it up as much as you can.
Yeah, 100%. Very vital, especially when you're sustaining. Like, I'm feeling it as well. Once I hit the Nightmare Clan boss, I'm like, I'm not surviving without this increased defense. So I have to start ranking up marks and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Next door to that, actually, we got Tarogi the Frog. I'll briefly speak about ally protection. One of the best, if not the best, form of damage mitigation in this game. And we know Deadwood is a bit upset that I pulled him on the free to play because the impact of
Yeah,
it
talk about that.
is astronomical, right? So when you start pairing
Yeah.
ally protection, stuff like strengthens, right? The increased defenses and damage mitigation passives, not to make it overly complicated, you actually start to survive a very long time as long as you've got that even coverage and all of your champions are covered, right? So definitely something to look out for champions. It holds the best value in the clan boss, in my opinion.
The reason why too is the clan boss has this thing where its damage scales over time.
Hmm.
They call it what's it called? Fury. What's something Fury? Gathering
Uh,
Fury.
the one of the
Right.
passives,
So
yeah.
Gathering Fury. So over time, the damage is going to grow and grow and grow and grow. Great thing about ally protection, though, is that it'll allow one of your champions like Taragi the Frog will absorb half the damage that your allies take. The thing is that the damage he's absorbing isn't increased by the Gathering Fury. So even though he's absorbing half the damage and your allies are taking half the damage, the amount of damage Taragi's taking is actually considerably lower. It's basically what he takes on the very first turn of the game. So it can be a really good way. It doesn't destroy your ally protectors. They're not taking so much damage that they're getting completely wiped out every turn. You just have to build them a little bit tougher than you would otherwise. And it can be a really easy and really positive way to help your team survive a lot longer. So when you combine ally protection, increased defense, and decreased attack, you can see that we're really dropping the amount of damage that our champions are taking considerably every single fight, every single attack. And so it becomes incredibly valuable if you want to survive a very long time.
Yeah, no, it's good to put that in there, 100%. A last one I was just thinking is just like a basic one, maybe unkillable buff slash block damage. Very traditional style teams that
Sure.
everybody loves, right? So a prime example would be a Demitha, I guess, for block damage. Great
Yeah.
champion, past fusion. I know that you're a
Yeah.
big fan of her, right?
Yeah, she's amazing. She's
Yeah,
amazing champion all the way through. I
yeah,
mean, block. Look, we could break down the Mytha as a champion and spend 30 minutes just talking about how
yeah. Just like an
outstanding
overview,
she
yeah,
is, right? Right, because as she blocks damage, she heals you.
yeah.
She does a lot of team. But in general, these block damage and unkillable teams are really, really popular because we've been talking a lot about these traditional teams, right? Like increased defense buffs, you
Hmm.
need decreased attack debuffs, you want the ally protection, all these things. But you have block damage. Well, guess what? You don't need any of that protection junk. You have Unkillable. Guess what? You're not dying. You don't need
Mhm.
any of that block damage, any of that protection stuff either. And so it becomes a lot easier to build your champions. You don't have to worry about how much defense, how much HP you put on them. You can just build them for damage. And so obviously those kind of teams are very finicky because you have to be very precise. There's no room for error. You need to know exactly when your team does buffs at what time. You have complete coverage for the fight, and that's why we use the website, right? So we can actually
Yeah.
speed tune these teams and make sure everything happens when we want them to. Speed tuning, essence of it, right? Making sure my buffs happen at the times I want them to happen, every single time I want them to happen. And so it can be a little bit finicky, but it's worth the effort. They're a lot easier to build. Um, Maybe not quite as much fun, in my opinion, but way more effective and a lot easier to build. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, these champions are fantastic, and if you get one, you're going to want to at least start exploring, how do I build an unkillable or a block damage team with them? And you can always do a hybrid team where maybe they're just keeping you alive for certain turns or blocking the AoEs or blocking the stun. You're not taking damage all the time, even if you have to survive some of the other turns, right? It's still going to be a very valuable buff to bring in for your squad.
Yeah, no, I remember it took me like, this is the thing, guys. Like, the traditional teams are probably the most popular because getting two of these key components, whether that be two block damage champions or two unkillable champions, like some of these, like Maneater, are actually void affinity, and the void shards are so hard to come by once you get past that honeymoon phase in Raid Shadow Legends, right? You get a few at the
Yeah.
start from the missions and the challenges, and then you're like, oh no. Where's my void shards gone? They come like once a month for the monthly quest. So getting some of these champions can be tedious, right? Unless you get lucky from shards. So traditional teams sometimes is all we've got to lay back on until the future of raid in your accounts where you can actually get some, right? But yeah, that was basically an introduction, guys, of champions and buffs and debuffs and all of that good stuff before we head into the second part of this video. Is there anything else that you wanted to pick up on there in terms of what we just spoke about?
No, I think that covers it. I
Yeah.
mean, when we talk about things, the only other thing that I would, one thing that I think at some point you definitely need for your team is block debuffs is a really
Yes.
important thing to bring in because of those affinities, issues with clan boss. Remember, we talk about speed tuning a little bit there. When you talk about hitting that spirit affinity and that decreased speed, that can be a real big problem. There's a stun that comes, that can be a real big problem. So I do feel like that's actually pretty important to make sure you bring in champions that can deal with that. Sepulchre Sentinel's an amazing choice for that. Crystal Jarl's not a bad choice for that. And there's multiple ways to deal with it. But it is something that you need to kind of keep in mind. Probably not number one on your list early on when you're playing this game, but it does eventually get to a point where you're going to want more consistency with your runs, and block debuffs is what's going to get that for you.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't actually know the value of it for a long time. It took me a while. I was like, I don't know about you, but when I first came in this game, I was still in like brutal clan boss for my first year, like a noob, until I found Deadwood Jedi, and then everything changed, guys. Everything changed. So okay, briefly, I just wanted to speak about just overall gear sets. I'm not going to go too much into it today, guys. The main thing is just basically breaking down clan boss. But at the start, obviously they kind of throw it in your face. You get your first starter stuff, and you get a lot of lifesteal, right? Lifesteal is kind of what you're introduced to in raid, if we can find it.
Sure. Yeah.
Lifesteal, where are you, buddy? We lost it. Have I even got
Uh,
any left on my
right.
account?
No, no.
Oh,
It's up at the top below resistance.
lifesteal. It shows how much I play lifesteal, guys. There we go. So lifesteal gear actually allows you to heal by 30% of the damage dealt. So very similar to what Deadwood was explaining with the Leech. One of the most popular choices, right? It scales off the War Master, it scales off the Giant Slayer, allows you to survive a longer time as long as you got the Masteries on, and helps you support. But then once you start moving along, I'd say something that if you've got the Leech debuff up in particular, stuff like Stalwart, right? Starting to mitigate some of that damage. And because what does the clan boss do, guys, apart from the stun, is AoE damage. And if we could start to reduce this with both passive skills and the skill set of the Stalwart set, you actually start to take so much less, right?
A huge, huge difference maker. Most of my favorite teams have always like included a fair amount of stalwart gear because it just
Yes.
drops, lessens the amount of damage you take considerably. Especially good on attack-based champions, so you can still build them with damage.
Hmm.
Don't have to build as much defense and HP on them, and can still be really successful. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely good.
Is there any other sets like off the top of your head that you'd recommend before we move into the masteries?
Well, I mean, obviously, the main sets that you're gonna need. One thing I always run into when I'm doing account takeovers that is always an issue is there's not enough speed gear on an account
Hmm.
because obviously when you're trying to get your team, you're trying to get the best, damage possible. You're gonna want to speed tune. You're gonna want to start going faster and faster. And having speed gear to make up those differences is really important. And so always you're farming dragon to at least get speed gear. Stalwart gear, again, like we said, is really valuable. Accuracy gear is really important because
Yes.
you need to have enough accuracy to land your defense, right? Those are the three main ones. Outside of that, uh, those are the three main ones that I look at as far as like the sets that we start with, right? Things like defense, crit rate, crit damage, those can always be helpful, but they're not really necessary. Outside of that, we start looking at gear sets we get from the Forge
Mhm.
and from Doom Tower, right? So perception, really, really valuable. You get speed and accuracy. Yes, please, I will take that. One set that I think gets overlooked a lot is Guardian gear. I think it's
Yes.
actually really, really valuable. And that's something that you get from the Doom Tower, and that's basically like a mini. The gear set itself is a mini ally protection ability, right? And it provides some healing, so it's definitely a good set to have. I think that those are the two main ones I like a lot. The other one that is, I think it's pretty brand new, is Defiant set.
Yes.
And it's basically like a mini Stalwart set, and it's really nice. So those are the ones I generally go like, oh, these are the ones I'm going to want to pay attention to. Things like Immortal gear or Cruel gear can be really helpful, but they're not really essential. And so, when it comes to Clan Boss, it's all about mitigating damage. It's all about increasing your defense. It's about increasing your HP. Those are generally the three things that we're looking at. And it's about increasing your. So, if we can get those done and get to the accuracy levels we need, we're going to be in good shape. And any gear sets that help with that are going to help with that. Bottom
Yeah.
line. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan
I
of
think
Defiant actually. As you just
love it.
said there as well, like the Guardian is probably it's a tough one for me. It is always between perception because for debuffers in particular, we really want that accuracy right. And if you don't have the great hall development, sorry, of like the accuracy stats
Mhm.
and all of that, or if you don't have the gear or the banners, we understand it's very hard to attain this, and it does take a long period of time. Well, being able to just do the faction wars, just do the Doom Tower, even if it is the normal difficulty, I know that you can relate to this. We're farming this by farming the bosses on our free-to-plays, right? Being able to get some of this stuff for like some of the other sets, like Affinity Break or whatever it
Yeah.
may be. But once those rotations do come in, like the Griffin is up as this video is being recorded, being able to get some of that Guardian set, very, very impactful with the way they can use that.
Yeah,
So,
I think Guardian set's incredibly good, but again, it's hard to put together, right? It's
yeah,
not always easy to put together a full four-piece set, and you don't want it on all your champions, right?
yeah,
I mean, you could do that. You could do that. Don't get me wrong, you could do that. But generally, you're not going to put it on all your champions. Uh, Impactful for sure, but obviously you can't have everything. And yeah, perception's amazing. It's the best set in the game.
yeah.
It is,
It has to be, right? It
Um,
has to be.
speed and accuracy. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
best.
So okay, without like us
Yeah.
overcomplicating it, I tend to always do that as well. So when you're building a clan boss champion, right? Let's just say, oh look, two heads are better than one, guys. So let's go. So when you're building up a, oh, give me that hat. Give me that hat. He's hiding, guys. He's shy. Look, I'll block you. Look, there you go. Can you see what's written on the back of my chair?
Oh, it says, what does it say? It says Deadwood is amazing. Yep, that's what it says. Uh, I,
Oh,
I didn't write it. I'm just saying
I'm
that's what's
gonna
there.
I'm gonna be scared to record videos from now on. Just dead with spam. Oh
Yep.
god. So okay, in terms of masteries, I'd say when you're heading down the offense tree, this is kind of like a traditional route, right? Where for leader the Death Siren, we're coming down, we're going to the War Master, we're inflicting, like we mentioned earlier in the video, guys. But of course, there is other ways that we can use the Giant Slayer, but traditionally, we're looking for multi-hitters, but there is ways that we like to use it, right, with like more speedy champions. Do you want to express how you like to do that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like basically, the idea with War Master and Giant Slayer, they both have a percentage chance to do this bonus damage based off the enemy HP. Now, because Clan Boss caps max HP damage,
Mhm.
basically, they're gonna do the same amount of damage. Like they do exactly the same amount of damage. Giant Slayer and War Master do the same amount of damage. So the question is, how many attacks are you getting? Giant Slayer will proc based off the number of hits you do on each attack. whereas War Master will proc based off the number of attacks you do,
Yeah.
right? So with War Master, it's a 60% chance of activating every time you attack. Doesn't matter how many hits you get, every time you attack, 60% chance. So with Giant Slayer, it's a 30% chance to activate for every hit you get.
Yeah.
So basic math, right? If I do one at every attack, right? It's only one attack per turn. I'm gonna have a 60% chance. With Giant Slayer, if it's a 30% chance per hit, as long as I have at least 2 hits for every attack, they're
Yeah.
equal. Neither one's better than the other. So anytime I have a champion that has triple hit abilities, I will generally choose Giant Slayer over War Master because there's a little bit higher chance of us getting those activations and doing that damage every turn. So that's basically how it comes down to. So you take all the hits, take all their skills, take the total amount of cooldowns it takes, right? So if I have a skill on a 4-turn cooldown, then I'll do it over a 4-turn span, right?
Mhm.
So the A3 does an attack every 4 turns, the A2 does an attack every 4 turns, and then we have 2 A1 abilities, right? Basically, they happen twice. I'll count up all the hits with those and then divide it by the 4 attacks. Is it over 2? Giant Slayer. Is it under 2? War Master. Is it the same? You can do what you want.
Yeah, no, 100%. It is important to pick up on there, but yeah, both holding very strong value, guys. When you're building these clan boss teams, you definitely want to head down there. Around here, it's kind of like the traditional one,
did
I guess. Go on.
did I overcomplicate it? I remember the last
No,
time
no,
I did
no.
this.
I
I
actually wanted you
overcomplicated.
to
Did I
do
do it
that.
again?
I
Is
remembered.
that good?
Yeah, that was good. Really
All
good.
right.
No, no. It's very important to know though, because obviously when you are getting those extra attacks, like a prime example for me would be a Brackus the Shifter. I would still put him in Giant Slayer, even though that is A1 is a single target. So Brackus the Shifter here. Not to even like lie or anything, guys. He's a Giant Slayer champion, right? I've got him down there, but he actually
Yep.
has he's got a single target A1. So there is champions like this in the game because look at all of these hits on the A2. Look at all of these hits on the A3, right? And I'm going to be pumping these out so many times. I'm getting so much more value from that, in my opinion. But yeah, so that's
Yep.
basically some things to
100%.
consider. More end game kind of stuff, but basic wise, yeah, triple hits. So someone like a Ronda, prime example, great champion for it, right? Yeah.
Yep. Great champion
So
for Giant Slayer. Absolutely.
defense trees, support trees, is very hard to kind of recommend in a broad spectrum because someone like myself, I can get the accuracy stats without relying on the support tree. So for someone like Lydia, I know that I've already got those stats being an endgame player, right? With like 380 accuracy, just so you guys understand what I'm talking about. So something like for me, I know that I'm going to be benefiting from stuff like Retribution, right? So when my targets are losing HP, I'm able to counterattack. With Deterrence, when champions are getting stuns with those single targets, there's a chance to counterattack. And all of these extra hits are really going to add up and add to my War Master damage, which is very important to know. But traditionally, I'll be going down the support tree. I'll be trying to get some bonus accuracy. We're trying to increase accuracy, extend the value of our debuffs, right? With Master Hexer, having that 30% chance to extend specific stuff. We got the Sniper, so champions like, let's just say a Stag Knight, I believe is on a 95% chance to place his debuffs. This will actually put that up to that 100% chance, just hypothetically.
Yep.
So Sniper, very, very important as well. So I guess, look at your champions. Do they have a weird kit like... a prime example would be a Soy Ren from the Shadowkin faction, right? So if we just head into Soy Ren. Still don't have her on my main account. But she has an AoE, drop defense, 80% chance. And we're like, ooh, maybe we want this at a 85% chance. So I'm going to be looking towards that Sniper, right?
When it comes to the Masteries, they both have their advantages. The defense and support tree. You always take the offense tree, but defense support, they have their different advantages. Defensive tree, there's some Masteries in there that will really lessen the damage you take and will help you survive longer, right? Blast Proof is really good for surviving those AoE hits. Like I said, Timely Intervention is really good and helps actually a lot. Resurgent not bad, but what's the one below Resurgent? Is that Death Delay?
Yeah.
That's actually really helpful with things like the stun, right? Really lessening the damage you take over time. So those are very impactful. The other one that gives you a bigger shield is really nice when you have a or someone that places a big shield, a Brogni or something can really be effective. And of course, Retribution counterattack one is the one that you really want a lot. I would generally say that the defensive tree is going to be your more end game look, right? Because counterattacking is nice, but there's exceptions. You have counterattack on your team, you obviously don't need that, right? You just don't need it. Surviving might be important, so the other parts of the tree might be really good, but obviously you have counterattack, you don't need retribution. The support tree is really good for extending or landing debuffs. So, and that's really what we talk about primarily. If you're on the edge of hitting that next level of clan boss and you need more accuracy, then you go support tree, because if you can't land the debuffs, there's no point in having them. Obviously, that's going to be advantageous, but sniper and master hexer can be really valuable. You know, you have a champion like Urgrim who has a small chance on the A1 of placing poisons, or a steel skull. Those that little bit you get from sniper can have a really big impact, and the master hexer can be really big as well to help extend that. You know, that's generally something that you put on somebody like a frozen banshee to make sure that
Mm.
poison sensitivity at least has a better chance of extending, so you can put more poisons up. Definitely there's, you know, an argument to be said for either side, but it really just depends on the team that you have and the other buffs and debuffs you're bringing in. When you have unkillable teams with like man eaters or Sir Nicholas's, you're generally going to be, you know, hurting a lot. The defensive tree with retribution is really good because you can get some counterattacks in. But if you have a block damage team with the Mytha or Tower or Hellcat, then you're not going to be losing any HP. You're not going to get any. So you might as well, you know, the support tree side and get extending the debuffs that you do put out there. So there's definitely an argument to be said for both.
Hmm.
Yeah. The big thing I would say, if you are speed tuning your team, please, please, please make sure to avoid anything that affects turn meter or anything that affects skill timing, right?
Yes.
Cycle of magic, arcane celerity, rapid response. Um, there's even one in the defensive tree. I can never remember which one. But
Which one is it?
it's below delay death. I can't remember what it's called.
Cycle of
There we
Revenge. Oh
go.
yeah,
Cycle
chance
of
of increasing
revenge. Right.
termia. Yeah.
Those are generally the four that are going to affect you the most, because they will either affect your turn meter, which will affect the turn order, which will affect the timing of the team and throw your comp out, or they will affect the timing of the skill with cycle of magic, and that obviously can do the same thing, right? Your unkillable happens a turn too early. That's still a turn too early.
Yeah.
Not always a good thing. So, but those are things to kind of avoid if you do that. And usually, I would say 90% of the time, if there's a problem with the team, it's because of masteries.
I was just about to
Um,
say that. I'm sure there's many times
yeah.
where someone's like, Deadwood, I followed your guide on YouTube. I have done everything. And then you're like, did you put this mastery on? He's like, oh yeah, I've got that mastery on. And then boom, it seems fine. It always comes
100%.
down,
Yeah.
99% of the time, it comes down to masteries, right? The termia
Uh,
increases and
I,
stuff.
I, yeah, it does. I mean, you know, every time 100%, 100%, if you have a speed tune that we know is on the website and it doesn't work for you, it's because you got the speeds wrong,
Mhm.
you got the masteries wrong, or you're using a champion with skills that will affect turn meter in some way and you haven't accounted for that. But it's always one of those things, like always one of those things. You know,
Yeah.
maybe it's a gear piece that is affecting the timing of the skills, but it's timing of the skills, turn meter, or that's pretty much it, right? It's always going to be one of those things.
Yeah.
Masteries can affect that, skills can affect that, gear can affect that. So yeah.
Yeah. So okay, just to kind of like wrap up that segment there, I now just would you like to build your own clan boss team here? It doesn't have to be end game. This is just Nightmare Clan Boss. I'll just kind of show a more end game one towards the end of the video as the end video there. So
Sure.
do you want to like build? We've kind of discussed all these things. We've talked about Leech. We've talked about increased defense. So I'm gonna give you that chance to just you tell me what you want. I'll throw it in the board and we'll kind of walk through it a little bit, I guess.
Okay, sure, we could do
Yeah.
that. I mean, what kind of eh,
I guess anything
all
you
right,
want.
wasn't expecting this. What kind of a team are we trying to build here? Like a traditional team?
Yeah, just a
Non
traditional team.
unkillable?
Nothing insane. Just like trying to showcase the debuffs and stuff. I guess just for fun.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Man, what would be the best probably the best team that's out there? You're gonna want to start with Elva, follow it up with Deacon, then get a Jareg, and this is my free to play team in case people aren't don't know. No.
Good.
Uh no, I think we can definitely build a pretty solid team here.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I think that works out really good. We have everything that we want in the team.
Hmm.
You know, and now if we speed tuned it, we could actually have it be affinity friendly too, which I don't think that'll take a little bit too much work, but
Yeah.
that is a possibility there, right?
So
So
basically, we're
you
just
don't.
gonna have this. Oh look, nobody's got gear on, guys. It's absolutely amazing. But we'll probably do very well. Just it's actually good to show this. This is the reason why I asked you to choose random champions, because I know that I haven't got a lot of gear on them, but they should still be able to easy 4-key the Nightmare Clan boss just from bringing in the right buffs and debuffs. And that's kind of what I was the whole point of me throwing you on the spot there. So look, now we've got decreased attack, guys, poisons, we've got drop defense, we've got all of the buffs that we need. We will now start to survive a lot longer time, right? So,
Yep.
is this a team that you'd want on your free-to-play account? Something like this?
I would run this. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would. I definitely would run this on my free-to-play account.
Oh, boom, look at that, guys. Block debuffs. You see that, guys? Being able to block off that stun, keep us affinity friendly there. Now, this is not completely speed tuned, but you can start to see the ways that this is starting to come into fruition, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have a look at the gear after this.
For.
I guarantee that they're all naked.
I mean, the things that you want to look at when you're watching a team like this is like, obviously, are we blocking the debuffs? We weren't there. We just didn't have block debuff up.
Yeah.
We're not speed tuned. It's fine. But do we have ally protection up when we need it? Do we have increased defense up for the entirety of the fight?
Yeah.
Or at least when we need it. You know, these are the little things we want to look at. We also want to look at, are we keeping decreased attack up for the full fight? Like right now, we don't have it on. Are we going to get it back on in time?
There
right?
we got it.
There we go. Venomage, you know, kind of jumped in, helped us out there. So those are the kind of big keys. You'll notice with ever decreased attack falls off, we'll take a way more damage than we would otherwise.
Yeah.
No, definitely be a problem.
Man, I'm just looking at this thinking, if I could just have some of these champs in the free to play. Well, I got a few, I guess. Yep. Not to rub it in. Yep. You do as well, though. You got the Venomage. You got the Venomage.
I got the Venomage. You got the Chiragi. That's about it. We both have Rhonda. You know,
it's crazy how none of us actually thought about wanting Hatatsu. But in hindsight, he's such a strong champion, man. He's so versatile.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insanely good. Yeah, like I just did a video talking about if I could start my free to play with 5 champions and I put him on there because I was just like, this guy he brings so much for the table. The problem with Hatatsu is he's got like an 80% chance of landing decreased attack. If it was 100% chance, he would be the no-brainer go-to for like better than many of the legendaries, I think, just for versatility. Leech, he brings defense, he has continuous heals, help keep your team alive. He brings decreased attack. Like he just has literally everything that you could, you know, almost not quite literally, that's Riho, but almost literally everything that you'd want on a he's just very, very, very good. You know, plus he can get stunned and he'll wake up, much like Skull Crusher. So he's got cool abilities to him.
So we're just gonna wrap it up there. This is the 4-key nightmare, guys. I just wanted to showcase, like, by just putting the team together. This is not even speed tuned or anything like that.
I love how you stopped it. Like, oh, this is a 4-key nightmare. This is an easily 2-key nightmare team. You just threw together right there.
No, but I mean, like, just to show that I can cut the run off early. So let's just say you've got a less of a great haul, you've got less of a gear on your champions, just to kind of balance it a little bit. That we've actually managed to surpass that 4-key with just a team that Deadwood has put on the spot on for fun. And just to give you an idea, guys, I'm pretty sure all of these champions, look at this gear. This is the reason why I wanted you to do that. So we got recently used, right? She's well. She hasn't. She's got like okay gear. It's nothing insane. Hatatsu, no gear, guys. 0. Chiragi the Frog, no gear. This is why I wanted Deadwood to do it, and I was smiling before, because I wanted to show how much of an impact that if this was actually geared properly, easy 1-key on the Nightmare, easy key on the Ultra Nightmare once you get to the end game. So that was kind of why I wanted to do that fun little segment. But just to wrap up the video, we're going to just leave a team in the background of what I use, just for comparison. So where are you? Clan Boss. Here we go. Where is it? I don't have a Clan Boss team, guys. It's disappeared. There we go. No, wait, where is it? I've actually lost my Clan Boss team. Can you see the Mythra anywhere? I'm actually getting scared now. There she is. There we go. There you go. I got scared for a minute. I was like, where's my Clan Boss team? So this is like a team that I use on a daily basis. I love using Rhonda. It's basically, do you know when Rhonda first came out, right? I put her in my Clan Boss team and I never changed it. And I was like,
really?
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, I've been using it since she came out and I love it. I love it. I'm not going to change it for a long time. She's just so enjoyable to watch. Like, this team here does about 100 million with just a Razin and a Rhonda. And we haven't got... this team hasn't got the 2 turn beater boosters. So traditionally, we have a Deacon Armstrong, right? In the lead position. We've only got a Seeker. So it's a very fun team. I like it.
You're running this it's basically the Myth Fu, but without the speed aura.
Yes, so it's a lot more speedy on the...
It's a really fast team. It's hard to do.
Yeah. So this is just an example, because I've got an Unkillable team. This is basically how an Unkillable can work, guys, as one example. So it's a way that we're actually going to be cleansing off a stun with someone like an Heiress. You're going to see this now. Kaboom. And then we're kind of going in that 2-to-1 ratio speed tune. We're going to be affinity friendly, taking this everywhere, and we'll be completely fine once it's in tune. And yeah, this is kind of like the more endgame scenarios of being able to one-key the Ultra Nightmare Clan boss. And that is the goal, right? When we all come into this game, we want to be getting those top chests, as those are the best rewards in the game, in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
Deadwood, you have been an absolute legend today. Thank you so much for taking so much time out. I do appreciate the time, seriously. Guys, I'm actually going away right over the next 4 days, and Deadwood's like, do you know what, YST? I got you, man. We got some time for you today. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
I got you, bro. I got you. No worries. It's always fun chatting with you anyway. So
Yeah.
it's not a big ask on my side. Great.
Yeah. But guys, I do have one kind of big thing to say. If you're not yet subscribed to Deadwood Jedi, everything is in the description below. His website, his channel, every single channel that he's made since 2001. I'll go find them. I'll go find one of your meme channels. It'll be there, I guess.
Well, I mean, I gotta say, if you guys haven't subscribed to me, yeah, please come subscribe. But more importantly, if you haven't subscribed to YST, I don't know what you guys are doing here, right? Like you got to subscribe to this guy. He's not only a top tier person, but a top tier content creator. Definitely brings you the kind of stuff and information that you guys want. So make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure about half of you watch these videos and aren't subscribed. Let's flip that around, right? Let's make that happen.
Wait, are you in my analytics? Because it actually is 50% unsubscribed.
It's yeah, it's usually about 50% for most of us. So that's kind of where I went with that.
But yeah, Deadwood, is there anything that you got planned going up on the channel? So you got the free-to-play series and all of that good stuff. Anything else in the works that you just want to quickly talk about? So
Not boy. Yeah, I mean, like, we got stuff that we want to do coming up, but I don't have a timetable on it. I find the timetables kind of stress me out a little bit too much, so I'm trying to ease up on that. But one of the things I've been wanting to do is do some more kind of guides for dummies. I did a budget Unkillable guide for dummies a long time back, and I liked that video. And I've been wanting to do one of those, kind of going over some of the stuff we went over here, talking about the basics of clan boss, talking about the basics of most of this game in just different areas of it and stuff like that, the different roles champions can play and stuff like that, trying to help. I've been getting more into like the early game free-to-play player kind of guides for them, and so I kind of want to do some more of that. And then I think we are planning on doing another one of those big DC competition events,
Oh.
probably in the next some point in the next month or two here. So I'm definitely trying to gear up for that and get ready for that,
Oh.
prepped on that side of things. So that's the big things that are kind of going down, but that's obviously the ways. I don't know when exactly that's going to happen, and so yeah.
Oh, you're scaring me, man.
Trying to stay frosty. What? It'll be fun.
These competitions, I'm telling you, I had a meltdown, right? In my previous episode, I was like, I lost the Shield Maidens challenge, I lost the faction games, I lost the Clan Boss draft, I lost against Deadwood. It's just,
I haven't won any of them either. Don't feel too bad, YC. I haven't won any of them. The key is you may not be a winner in the standings, but you're a winner in our hearts, and that's all that really matters.
Oh, you're a legend. Thanks, bro. All right, guys, that is going to be all for today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like, subscribe button. Head over to Deadwood's channel, of course. And if you found anything useful within this video, let us know in the comment section below. And we hope that you all have an amazing rest of 2023. Feel free to always come back to this video if you need to pick up on some knowledge for some basics to Clan Boss. We'll catch you guys in a video soon, I guess. And peace.